Hello, happy people. Hope you're having a great day today. Today we're taking a look at the short story by Margaret St. Clair, which is in the collection that we've been doing a deep dive into called Brightness Falls from the Sky. Now this is a very fast short story. It's like 9 pages long. It's the shortest short story in this collection that we've been doing a deep dive into, The Best of Margaret St. Clair. It is a future dystopian heavy sci-fi story with a lot of things that happen, and I really like the story a lot. It's dark, as you would expect any dystopian work to sort of be. But I definitely enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun to read it. I knocked it out last night. It took me less than 20 pages. Less than 20 pages. Less than 20 minutes rather, for me to knock it out. So it was pretty quick as a 9-minute short story. And so I really enjoyed this dystopian work. The basic key concept of this work is that humans have populated multiple colonies throughout the solar system and beyond. And they are very much pro-humans and anti-aliens. And there's a lot of issues, and there is an alien species that they call the bird people that have launched, that used to be allies with the humans, but they've launched a rebellion since they're no longer considered part of the things. And so we're taking place in this rebellion by the bird people against humans in the far future. And one of our key human point of view people will meet one of these bird people and begins to see some value in the bird people and sees them as more and having more value than they have been told by their fellow humans. And that's the basic key core concept of this short story, that there's value to these birds that were no longer valued by humans. And so things are darker, worse. There are gladiatorial combats that take people's mind off of how bad it is. They call blood sports in the short story. And we see several aspects of that happening during the time. We also see that was the downfall of the birds. And anyway, so that's the key concept, again, of this short story, Brightness Falls from the Sky. By Margaret St. Clair. Now, again, we're doing a deep dive into Margaret St. Clair because she's mentioned in the Appendix N by Gygax in the first edition of Dungeon Master's Guide in 1979, where he lists the influences that he came to for creating the original Dungeons & Dragons sort of stuff in the 70s. And through that to modern fantasy that's been heavily influenced by Dungeons & Dragons. From things like games to comics, other visual media like movies and television, and video games and that sort of a thing, and regular games like board games. So it's heavily influenced our media that we have today. So most of our fantasy media has been heavily influenced by Dungeons & Dragons, and so finding out where those influences came from is very interesting to me. So that's why we're doing a deep dive into Margaret St. Clair, because she's listed. She started publishing in 1945 in the pulp era, in pulp magazines and that sort of a thing. And this short story was published in, let me take a quick look and see, I think it was 1952, but let me double check to make sure. Yep, it was 1951 rather than 1950. And the short story was published in the collection Mercury Press Incorporated. That sounds like a collection, not a magazine, but we'll see. Mercury Press is the copyright date 1951. So this is still early in her career. Now, she was a very prolific writer. She wrote novels and short stories all over the place. And this is, again, a collection. Everything in here so far has been a science fiction short story. So we'll see what winds up happening, if the rest of this collection is or is not. That also happened with a collection that I did a deep dive into by somebody else who was on Appendix N called Lee Brackett. She was very influential, again, on Dungeons & Dragons, according to Gary Gygax, but her collection of best of were all science fiction short stories. There's not a fantasy short story in there. And so far, that has been true for this collection as well. But we'll see if that continues to hold true throughout the rest of the thing. But I figured by now, I'm about like 7 or 8 stories in. I figured if there were some fantasy or non-science fiction, like maybe horror or westerns or something like that, that if there were out there, by now I would have come across them. So although this is chronologically, maybe at some point in time she writes 2 turns to the fantasy later on, who knows. But anyway, there you are. That is Brightness Falls from the Scars. So let me know if you liked it, if you've read it, what you thought of it. I would be more than happy to talk with you further about in the comments below, whatever your take is, or opinion of my take is. If you enjoyed this video, please feel encouraged to hit that subscribe button, because there'll be a lot more of these to follow. And then finally, I want to thank you so much for taking some time out of your day and investing it and watching my video. We all have so many things that are happening in our lives. We're pulled in so many different directions. So the fact that you spent this time with me is incredibly humbling, and I appreciate it. So thanks again, and have an amazing day.